What's going on, guys? Welcome to another live stream session with Phrankleen. If you're watching me for the first time, thank you for doing so. My name is Phrankleen, I'm the brain behind this. So welcome to Storytime. Storytime is basically a segment where people send me their stories, their experiences, what they're going through to my email. And if it resonates with me, if it's something we can learn from, I convert it to a live stream session like this. Of course, I keep you anonymous. And yeah, so we talk about it. And you can hopefully learn one or two things. So if you can hear me, you can see me, hit the like button. Give consideration to smacking the subscribe button and select the bell button option so that you are notified when I'm online like this. All right. What's going on, people? What's up, man? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Storytime. Oh, somebody said happy Thanksgiving. I exactly don't observe Thanksgiving, but happy Thanksgiving to particularly my American brothers and sisters. I hope you've not finished all the turkey, all right? Send me my own turkey too. Yeah, so let's get these parties started. Purple hibiscus. See you sending me turkey. Rex, Angel, 69 Avenue. Kabiru, David, Osilaja, Williams. What's going on, people? Somebody said no sound. Can you hear me? No sound. Let me know if you can hear me, please. Can you hear me? Do you mean no sound? Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, they can hear me loud and clear. So, bro, who's that person that said they can't hear me? Adams, try to restart the YouTube, close the page and reselect the video, man. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Let's crack on, man. Let's crack on. So here's the story. All right. If you can hear me, you can see me, hit the like button. Excuse me. Hit the like button, so we can, we can play around with the algorithm a bit. Right. This person says, hi, Phrankleen. I've been watching your show for some time and wanted to make sure that I can put my story out there to create awareness. Thank you. By the way, if you want to send me your stories, footchannel1960@gmail.com. Look in the description below. If there's any trending topics you'd like me to deal with, send them to me. Send me the links, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. If it resonates with me, if I believe we can learn something from it, then I will jump on it, all right? So anyway, hi, Phrankleen. I've been watching your show for some time. I wanted to make sure that I can put my story out there to create awareness. I gave a large sum of money, $20,000 US, to my mom out of compassion and trust to buy land in Nigeria and help me build a house. She, in fact, against my better judgment, she claimed to know about land purchase. Just 1 second. She claimed to know about land purchase even though she never went to school, a stark illiterate in bracket. She said she bought the land and sold it and decided, she said she bought the land and sold it and decided not to hand over the funds to me. So even the extra that was meant to start the building project, she absolutely blew through everything. She made a confessional statement to the police, and why she has not been arrested, I don't know. This has been going on for over 10 years. She has a track record of taking advantage of me and fleecing me. I need your help. This is happening frequently in our community. I've had to compress this to cut out the long-wounded extras in the middle. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but this is happening frequently in our community, that there has been a task force in place. There has to be a task force in place to right this wrong. Many of us in diaspora have been victimized enough by dodgy parents, relative and friends who think they are entitled to their children's assets because they made a choice to give birth to them. That's right. I will be willing to do a public service announcement about this. There is more, but just decided to share this bit sincerely. Somebody said there is a sucker born every minute. You know what, man? The compassionate side of me empathizes with this person, right? Because I'm human, and I have human feelings. But sadly, I feel sorry, man. So these stories very short. So I'm going to incorporate a couple of other snippets, sort of like similar stories, right? So this person gave $20,000 to their mom. And the bit that gets me is, by his own admission, mom's a stack literate, knows nothing about real estate and all that stuff. She bought the land and then sold it for profit, of course. Lined her pocket. She was meant to use that $20,000 to procure land and then commence building projects. She had the audacity. And in the course of 10 years, this has been going on for quite some time. This issue has been on ground for a few years. And also in the course of the 10 years, the same mom has fleeced this individual. And for those that have been watching me for a minute, you're quite familiar with some of my similar stories, right? They're designed to emancipate the minds of particularly unsuspecting diasporans and also those that are mentally chained by emotional blackmail. What would they say? Oh, it's my mom, it's my dad. I've got a truckload of these type of similar stories, and they are absolutely heartbreaking. There is one thing I'd like to address. Why is it that, and this is not me saying don't love your parents, don't love your dad, or don't love your mom, but why is it that you want to embark on like a huge project, and the idea of because such and such are your parents, and you put your life into their hands? It's the same way that people would just, you get married to someone and you leave the door to your marriage open, allowing your parents a free flow and access, blatant disregard for marital boundaries, and you allow them, to misbehave. You actually allow them to violate you. I'm just sick and tired of the stories, man. And the most painful part of these type of stories is sometimes, or a lot of times, when people get swindled like this, a lot of people don't get the chance to bounce back. They don't. Sometimes there might even be like, that might just be their life savings. Sometimes it might be some of their savings, and there might even be a bank loan involved. Maybe they're in the West, they took a loan, they wanted to set up a business or do something, and then one goes over, they get into the hands of dubious people. These charlatans, the so-called relatives, and then they do them over. Why do you do it? Someone said poor boundaries taught from birth in African homes. You're quite correct. Somebody said, yep, send $1,000 first and see what she would have done with that. That's clever. That way, you perhaps, more than likely you will, be able to bring your loss or your potential loss to bare minimum, right? You micromanage. Let me see this. I can imagine the family peer pressure to let it go, allow for folks to be taken advantage of. Of course. Do you know the worst part of this? Families are the worst. I keep saying it. When you look what, you know how families are. You see, it's bad enough that people get taken advantage of, that you've been fleeced, you've lost your money, your mother is taking advantage of you. They have the audacity to steal your hard-earned money. The worst part of all this is you then have these extended family members. You have, so it might be older siblings, it might be even some of your younger siblings, it might be your father in alignment with your mother, and then all these uncles and religious charlatans who then have the audacity to say, are you going to arrest your mom? Or let it go. But for long, let go and let God. Me personally, so you see that behavioral pattern is far more toxic than the actual incident. It's the attitude of that they have to normalize this cycle of fraud, and then they then come with emotional blackmail and then remind you, oh, such and such is your mom, oh, such and such is your father. Are you going to take action against your father? And then you are caught betwixt a crux. What do I mean? You're caught at crossroads now, and then you manage to convince yourself that, oh yeah, she's my mom. It's absolutely acceptable for her to fleece me. Oh, because I've been told that it's an abomination, even if my mom steals my life savings, even she blatantly run me down and intend to kill me off with her criminal action. But because she's my mom, and this made up toxic African culture says, I can't, or I shouldn't take action. I've got to accept it now and bear the burden of the loss, the heartbreak, the distress, and just accept it, let go and let God, and let the dysfunctional mom get away with it. Absolute nonsense. Let me look at some of the comments here. There's 2 red flags from the outset. His mom is illiterate. She knows nothing about land matters. I agree. So Delia Medu, I agree. You're absolutely right. That was the first thing that stuck out for me as well. Yet based on pure sentiment, bullseye. He still went ahead. I don't empathize with him at all. People do that a lot. Even if the mom was literate, just pure sentiment. Oh yeah, it's my mom. She can do no wrong. Yeah, right. People let their parents, kids, friends, lovers exploit them. Then they cry and wonder why. It's the Bible good kid brainwash scam, making some people psychologically weak and open to users. Let me read some of the comments. Dysfunctional behavior, right, and the cycle continues. You're bang and right. Another problem is that people don't tell family members the potential consequence of swindling them. You can't tell people. I get what you mean, but you see, if it's a must that you do business with family members, I always say to people, man, the best way to actually expose their mindset, it doesn't matter if they are laughing with you, if they are smiling with you. No. Tell them that they've got to dip their hands into a legal binding document, a legal binding contract or agreement. Tell them and then wait for their reaction. Especially parents, African parents. If you say, "Oh, Dad, I tell you what, I'd like for you to manage my building project for me, and I'm going to give you X amount of money for managing it for me, but I'm going to need you to sign for both parties, myself, the owner of the project, and you managing for me, Dad. I'm going to need us to, sign the dotted line. You sign, commit to these, agreement. It's a legal binding document." The typical African parent would instantaneously hijack that narrative for you, and they will flip the script. So what they would then say is, you're being disrespectful, you're going beyond your bounds, you're labeling your parents as thieves. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. It's called mental conditioning, emotional blackmail. Some of you wouldn't even dare to get to that point whereby you're able to confidently verbalize and say, "Okay, Dad, I want us to run this small business together. I want you to do X, Y, Z, but I'm going to need you to commit to X, Y, Z, or sign this just to have a solicitor." It's for the protection of both parties involved. This is not you suggesting that, "Oh, Dad, you're a thief," or "Mom, you're a thief." So the moment somebody says, the moment somebody says, "Oh, no, I can't," then let them go. That's a red flag. Somebody said, again, I want us to have this conversation. Please, there's over 200 people watching right now. Do me a favor, please. Do me a favor. I want to see your comments. When people say he shouldn't prosecute his mother, he should simply cut ties with her perpetually and move on. My candid opinion. I agree with your opinion, Daily, but I have an issue with. Again, I still think it's part of the sentiment within African communities. So your mother blatantly swindles you, robs you blind. Hello, Rita. Thank you for joining us. Your mother blatantly rob you blind. What is it with these sentiments, Africans and sentiments of, don't arrest your mom. Don't take legal action against your mom. Why is that? What is it that we're afraid of? Let's talk about it. I would like to hear, I'm going to put up the link now. 1 second. I would like to hear from you guys, because I've heard this 1,000,001 times, right? People, they acknowledge the wrongdoing. They will say this and this and this. "Oh, my father stole," there was a case that somebody emailed me, "My father stole $40,000. Stole my $40,000. Are you going to throw him under the spotlight of EFCC, the CID unit in Nigeria? Are you going to take action again?" And then there is these breathing heavy and saying, I can't arrest my father. But he robbed you. How is your father any different based on that behavior? How is he any different from any random online scammer or armed robber or burglar that broke into your house and stole your jewelries, harmed your family, destroyed your life? How are they any? So, because a lot of Africans, and a lot of these things spill into other parts as well. It's multifaceted. The same people are the ones that they will tell you, "My parents don't recognize boundaries, but I'm unable to tell them." What is it that people are afraid of? Come and talk to me, man. Let me hear from you. Click on the link, please. I want to hear from you, man. They say they made you who you are and they sacrificed for you. Again, let me address this very quickly. This idea of it's emotional blackmail. So these idea of, I sacrificed, I brought you into existence. You can appreciate a good parent that, oh, you know, they gave me this, they gave me that. But let the truth be told, man. You had sex. You brought this child or these children to existence. They did not ask to be born. You got sexually active. You brought them to life. You have a duty of care towards them as children, especially when they were younger, when they were, you know, under your care as a parent, you know, before 18 or even a bit after 18. So why is it that we get these argument of, oh, I sacrificed for you? So what else would you have done? You wouldn't have sacrificed. You would have left the child on the pavement to suffer and die. Let me read. My dad will not scam me of my money, but he can be so naive about trusting people that he will let other people scam me through him. So I have to set up great checks and balances. Oh, on the pavement to suffer and die. Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Let me read. My dad. Hi, can you mute your video in the background, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to do that. How you doing, Phrankleen?
I'm all right, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I've actually been watching your show for a while now, and I just happened to be having a quick break today, so I wanted to chime in.
Right.
I understand everything you're talking about, you know, with the sentiments, but the truth is, you know, sometimes when family does you wrong like that, you know, on one hand, you want to just, you know, obviously act on impulse and do the right thing by, you know, taking them by law and doing what you're supposed to do. But sometimes just take what other external or extended family members say, you know. At the end of the day, it's family. And I know trust me, I struggle with this, you know, and I'm saying this, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying this, because I'm gonna tell you something I've never really shared with most people in my life. But growing up, right, I came from a very well-to-do family back home, right, in Nigeria, and my father's side of the family, my father got swindled by his cousin, right, and that act right there, like, so growing up, you know, I like as a child, I could tell that, you know, we were wealthy, but that act right there by my dad's cousin really crumbled my family. And it goes back to the point of what you're saying. When I say crumbled, it's like, obviously, you know, years have gone through and, you know, we're doing well. But the fact is, if that never happened by that cousin, would have been in a much better place financially today. You know, when I think about these things, and what you're saying is right. You know, I still have family members till today who were telling my dad, you know, at the end of the day, his family, blase, wada, wada. But the truth is, for me as a man, growing up and having that, you know, recollection of what happened to him, it skewed my mentality as a young man growing up. And what I say is that I have a very strong disdain for family members. I don't trust them at all. And some people might say that's a defense mechanism, but I'd rather have that, because the pain I'm using to build myself up, you know, I can't let anybody, regardless of who they are, take it away from me. So I get what I don't want to, you know, make this a prolonged conversation, because I know you have other callers, but I just want to say, you know, on one hand, it's easy to say, you know, take them to court, do this, do that. But at the end of the day, Phrankleen, you know, like, you know, it's just like sometimes your heart is in a point of conflict to even go on with that. I know I'm not answering the question, but I just wanted to at least have a conversation.
I'm actually enjoying, you know, like, it's like you're giving me a snippet into your personal experience. That's why I won't interrupt you. Look, just flow, brother. Go on.
Yeah. So it's honestly, and I really appreciate you even, you know, allowing me to speak, because honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you, Phrankleen. I've, like, what I'm just telling you right now, I was trembling saying it, because this is my first time going on YouTube to talk, you know, so it's my first time even saying this out to a person. But the truth is, what I've learned in life is, I appreciate my parents, but what I'm doing as a man, as I move each day in my life, is making sure I don't make the same mistakes my parents made. because at the end of the day, I want to set a bright future for my children. And my children, they should never make the same mistake.
I can feel pain in your voice, man.
No, trust me. I mean, I can tell you a lot of stories about my life, Phrankleen. I mean, I'm grateful to God where I am today. But the truth is, you know, when things happen like that, and there are other things that you see that happen in family, and when things happen, you realize that at the end of the day, you're on your own. Like you're really on your own, and you really have to find a way to make it out. But you know, I once again, I don't want to, you know, extend this conversation because I'm sure you have a lot of calls, but I just want to say, you know, the first thing to do, like you said, you know, obviously is to take them by the law and, you know, hold them accountable for their actions. But, you know, frankly and honestly, man, like, I don't like it's tough, you know, it's a very, because even if you do that, right, 2 years down the line or a year down the line or a month down the line, you might be like, okay, let me go just break them out of jail, right? Let them do whatever they want to do with their life. So it's like, it's a hurtful experience, but I think, you know, each person has to handle it the best way they feel accountable. You know, but thank you very much, brother, and continue on with your good work, man.
I hope you're getting closure, man. Thank you for sharing that, brother.
You're doing God's work on it. Keep it up.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Is it La Jolie? You there?
I'm here.
Hi. Evening.
Hello.
Yeah, go on.
Good evening. Okay. I think it's fear. Fear of being judged by the larger African community. The culture is your parents are always right or they're second to God. And if you question them, you're questioning authority. And that's not really encouraged in our culture. You're supposed to accept what elders tell you because they're older. And by that definition, they're smarter and wiser. And if they abuse you, you should stay silent because that's just the culture. They're older than you. You shouldn't speak up. You shouldn't challenge them.
That's right.
So we've learned that it's all right for elders to abuse us just because they're elders, even if we're smarter than them, even though we know better, even though it's right in front of our face, like this man, that his mother was, I'm assuming, illiterate and did not know how to manage money, because if she knew how to manage money, she would have been wealthy. The fact that he had to give her $20,000 is proof she does not know how to manage money, and I'm sure he understood that. But out of fear of saying no to his mother and questioning an elder, he just chose to be silent and watched her waste his money. But he understood what was going on. He just wasn't brave enough to stand up to his mother and say, no, I'm not going to allow you to do this because I understand you don't know how to manage money. You don't know what to do with money. I'm certain, like many of us, he grew up in poverty. How can your mother all of a sudden know what to do with $20,000 when you're an adult? It's just fear. And we're very trained to fear our elders. You know, we're taught to be silent and keep our heads down, and questioning authority, the response you get from your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, it's intense and nobody wants to go through that. So we just stay quiet and go home and lick our wounds and go through hell. But the catch is, like you said, you never recover and you just become so bitter and it breaks you.
How do we break this cycle, man? It drives me crazy.
Well, first we have to acknowledge that age doesn't equal wisdom. Just because you're older than me doesn't mean you're smarter than me.
That's right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is we have to be willing to be by ourselves and to be rejected by the family. The family is who comes after you, and nobody wants to deal with that intensity. People calling you, cursing you, telling you you're a terrible child. It's a horrible feeling, and we want to avoid it. But we have to be prepared for it, because when your parent was abusing you, these people weren't standing up for you either. And when your parents pass away, you're just left angry. And what do you do with all of that anger? Are you just supposed to swallow it, or do you turn around and punish your children? What your parents do to you, their own parents did to them.
That's right.
You know, it's just punching down. Your parents are poor. They've never had any power. You know, African society told them they were nobody. So who were they going to be a somebody to? Their children. That's the only people they have power over, so they exercise it. It's this cycle of I'm nobody outside my home, but at least to my children, I can be, as you call, a god. So I'm going to make them worship me since I can't get it outside my house. And so it presents as abuse. And we just keep perpetuating. If you want to do better for your children, don't let your parents rob you. Honestly, you know, if your parents rob you, they don't respect you and they don't see you really. I'd have to question the familial bond you have with your parents if they're willing to rob you like that.
It's crazy, man. These things happen 24/7, and that's why people like me that exist outside the conventional box of reasoning, and it drives me nuts. You know, like what you said earlier, this idea of you do not challenge them, even when they are blatantly wrong. Doesn't matter how meekly spoken you are, how softly spoken you are. If you just say, "Oh no, this is wrong," they think, "Oh, you shouldn't." You shouldn't challenge their thought process. You shouldn't say they're wrong. I mean, I've heard, even in our community, and this is not a joke, like parents have been cornered. They've been uncovered, exposed, you know, for stealing from their children or for selling their assets. And then they will come out shamelessly saying, "Yeah, I gave birth to you." Like, what the bloody hell does that even mean? How does giving birth to me give you the express right to rob me blind?
It's because African parents view children as possessions. If I own
Yeah,
you,
that's right.
if I own you, I can do whatever I want with you. Why should you talk back to me? I own you. Many African parents believe they own their children. Children are their possession, so they can do whatever they want with you. You know, abuse is part of African culture, even though people don't want to acknowledge it. Physical abuse, verbal abuse, financial abuse. Parenting in African culture involves a lot of abuse. It's normalized. And, you know, their attitude is if my parents treated me this way and I never spoke up, why should you speak up to me?
That's right.
Yeah. So
That's right.
either we break the chain and chart our own course and go in a different direction and understand that when we break the chains, we also break these relationships, that these people will stop speaking to us or cast us out or declare us dead, or we accept that we have no boundaries and we're willing to be abused and punched down on. And, you know, that's it. So, you know, I don't know what else to say. It's we're adults and we're in charge of our own destiny. But I feel for people who are scared. You know, if all you know is your parents are gods, it's hard to deviate, even though Phrankleen is pointing it all out in front of your face. It's scary to stand up to people you view as larger than life. You're intimidated, and African parents are very good at intimidating their children.
Like you see a grown man in their 40s, late 30s, in their 40s, even in their 50s. I'm telling you, man, if I wish I can show you the truckload of emails and stuff that I get where some of these grown-ass men and women, they find it absolutely impossible, like really hard, to look at their parents in the eyes and say, "Hey, man, listen, this is my marriage. This is my life. You know, Mom, listen, you've got to respect boundaries. There are two people existing within the confines of this union. All right? This is not your playground. This is not your jurisdiction. This is not your bedroom. This is not somewhere you barge into. You know, you haven't got the right to come in and start poking at my woman and stuff like that." I get 54-year-old man the other day. "Oh, Phrankleen, I love your content. Oh, thank you for all that you do. But dude, man, I don't know. I don't even know how to look at my mom and say, 'Mom, you've got to stop.'" And I'm like, wow. You're 6 years away from being 60, man. 6 freaking years. A grown-ass man. You're actually heading into the evening part of your life now. And you're still telling me that you're too scared to wipe your mother's breast milk off your lips. Like, bro,
That's a
And
person who's.
this is why a lot of marriages, relationships, I've said it time and time again, this is why they collapse. This is why even some people's lives, if you have a parent, I mean, and I know we've been through this already, I love your contribution. Just imagine you put 20,000 US dollars.
Mm.
The universe knows, man. I'm not even going to, dance around this one. If
That
a parent
20
takes 20,000 pounds, my money, and fleece it, and then their rebuttal is, oh yeah, because I gave up, fam, I will bang you up faster than the speed of light. I will make sure I go to the full extent of the law. I will claw back my money. I don't care. Like,
No,
I'm that type of dude, man.
no, you're right. I mean, $20,000 is not a little money. That's a lot of money.
That's a whole lot of bread, man.
That's a lot of money. Like, many Americans don't even have $20,000 in their savings, and this guy just gave it away. Like, that's a shocking amount. The Americans who don't even have $1,000, and this man, I'm sure, went through a lot to scrape up that 20,000.
Here in the UK, the average amount that black families leave in their bank account for their families, £1. So imagine you then break your back, whatever, you work so hard, you manage. And I've known cases where people actually, they might have like maybe 10 grand in their personal savings, and then they take a bit of loan. Maybe they're trying to start up a business back home, and they've done their calculations that, oh, you know what, if I can grow this business, I'll be able to pay back the loan over such and so period. And then the money lands in the hands of unscrupulous parents or like siblings and all that, and they fuck you over. And then they are monetarily, they are trapped now. And then you're telling me that, oh, don't, 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 oh yeah, because it's your mom. I thoroughly respect the position of the previous brother that spoke, and I understand. But bro, I'm gonna go out guns blazing, and I mean guns blazing.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I refuse to die in poverty because my family robbed me. It's just not something I'm willing to do.
There's a guy, I digress. There's a guy, some people would know, that used to come on my channel. And then through my channel gave him exposure. I'm not going to name him because I'm still going to deal with him for defamation through the courts in Nigeria. So I allow this geezer on my channel. He projects himself as a particular image. And then we found out, inclusive of myself and some other unsuspecting people, he sold a land, a bunch of lands in a particular area that's marked as government acquisition. And he had the audacity to tell us that he's not going to refund the money. I had some people that were telling me, oh, let it go because he projects himself like some kind of spiritual guy. He might do something to you. I'm wired naturally as a warrior. I went after him. Got the finest lawyer. I went after him, sledgehammer approach, threw him under the spotlight of this, criminal investigation department. They picked him up. I've got documents showing that. Got petition straight from Abuja in Nigeria, came to Lagos. They picked him up. They nailed the bastard. He coughed out the money. They took his mugshot, took his fingerprints. There's a police file on that guy. He's still pretending on the internet today like there's nothing to see. I've got all the evidence. I'm that type of person. You can't cheat me. And then the next thing for me to do is apply sentiments. Never. It's crazy. I just hope some of my brothers and sisters watching this will
stand up for themselves.
Thank you. It breaks my heart, man.
I mean, what you did is very rare. The majority of us are told to do nothing and to be afraid and to hide and just be silent. We're not taught to fight.
I'm a black sheep in my family. And you know why? Because I speak up. Because I say no, and I would go to war with anybody.
You just said it.
Because I'm a bad person. I'm not an evil person, but I don't take crap. If this is wrong, I'm just going to say this is wrong.
But you just said it. Speak up. What happens as African children when we speak up? You get slapped down physically and verbally. So you learn it's better to shut up and avoid being hurt. So as an adult, you're going to do the same thing. Because when you were a kid, if you ever dared speak out, you knew the consequences. You're told from a child.
And they would tell you, oh, you are this one is quite prevalent in the Nigerian community. Oh, you'll be cursed. There's always some attachment to some made up spiritual nonsense. Oh, you wouldn't end well. Oh, some curse. Wait, what? You stole my money.
Well, there's a story.
It's actually very painful. You stole my money. I gave you money to buy me a parcel of land. You, help me build a property. You then think you are clever in your tiny little fish brain. You then go to take pictures of someone else's property in order to keep me in blindness, to suppress my suspicions. You think you are clever. So what you're doing in the background is you blow through my hard-earned money, and then I find out, and then you want to tell me.
But Phrankleen,
I gave birth to you, so I have the right to fleece you. No chance.
Here's a legitimate question before I wrap up. How long have you been on YouTube telling people what happens? How many people have heard your message? How many other Africans have put out this message about what happens? Do we really not know, or are we too scared to point it out, even though we know exactly how it's going to end? At this point, I can't believe we don't know.
You see, I think what we are dealing with, and I'm telling you the scale of this, right? Because of the amount of emails that I receive. And I think the damage emanated from, when, of course, when we're young, children are like sponges. And through the formative years, right, the mindset has been conditioned. It's the same thing with religiosity and stuff. So they've used all of these nonsense, this toxicity, to condition the minds of a lot of people. Like, you see a grown man. I mean, yeah, I sort of grew up, but with some of these things that I'm talking about, but I don't know. I'm not superhuman. I don't have a battery pack in my back, but I've just always been like that. Like, I grew up, the moment I become an adult, I look at things and I just think, this is bollocks, man. This is crap. No. So speak up and challenge it. You'll have some people put energy into, oh, no. Shh, don't say nothing. Leave it. Oh, no. Oh, he's 60-year-old. You shouldn't say that. Wait, what? Yeah. What has that got to do with the price of bread? He's a 60-year-old. He has just defrauded me. So because he's 60, he needs to get away with it. Do you see?
No, I agree with you. It's violence. It's a culture of violence, and it's not just Nigerian culture. It's not isolated. It's across the entire continent.
Oh, of course, it's not unique to Nigeria, but I'm just talking from that point of view.
No, I'm only saying that to point out that it's an African thing. It's not a Nigerian thing. It's not isolated. Like, if you go to any African country, you get the same story from Africans over and over and over and over again. So it is African culture then, because across the whole continent, it's the same story. Different countries, different ethnic groups, but we have the same story. And maybe what this person just posted is the truth. We always think that our parents are different, but I don't know if I believe that, because as kids, you see how your parents behave, you know how they move, you know how they treat you, you know when your parents respect you and when parents have no respect.
Somebody's saying, oh, this woman still getting it wrong. It is not culture. Dr. James, first of all, I will respond to you, but please, let's be grown up. Don't use any abusive words. It will get you blocked. All right. But let me respond to you. Now, what we are addressing here is a deeply rooted toxic culture. You understand? So say, for example, in Nigeria, if somebody has a party, how do I say? Sorry. Let me give an example, just a random one. How many times have we heard of same stories where a woman is going through domestic violence in a relationship, and they'll tell you, oh, it's our culture. You cannot divorce your husband. Like, dude is smashing the woman's skull open, bleeding through her flipping nostrils. Yeah. Ripping out to shreds all the time. You will actually have people ring fencing that woman. They will use deadly reference to toxic biblical scriptures to ensure that the worst part is, at the pinnacle of affairs will be her parents. Oh, dad, this and this and this. He beat me up. I'm bleeding. This is all the marks on my body. they will say, yeah, it's okay. We'll talk about it. We'll call the other elders in the other family, blah, blah, blah. You cannot divorce your husband. Remain there. Don't bring shame to us because you've already had 2 kids by the man now. Well, how do you think people are going to look at your parents in the society? You have to remain in that marriage. And in extreme cases, a lot of these women get killed. That's just an example of one of the numerous toxic culture. And one of the toxic culture as well is the idea of, I'm using that as an example, the idea of, oh, you don't talk back. It's prevalent in Africa. The elimination of critical thinking is a very, very common toxic culture. And what they do is, from the formative years of children, you are basically trained and mentally conditioned not to talk back, not to challenge thought process, not to ask questions. How dare you? You do as you were told. So even something as simple as, okay, why do we have to pray all the time before we eat? Keep quiet, shut up. And most of the time, those parents, sadly, they have limited vocabulary. They are unable to effectively communicate. They meet that child's innocent questions and inquiries with what? With physical violence. They smack them down, and that's how you grow. You grow, and if physical violence is all you know, being smacked in the mouth, being slapped in the face, watching your mother get slapped around the house by your father simply because she was too tired, she slept off on the couch, and she forgot to warm the soup, and your dad comes in like a monster, beats the crap. So when you grow up, how is it very easy? How is it magically possible that you just turn out to be a great person? You're a product of your environment. And this is how the vicious cycle that we are discussing goes generation after generation. This is what we're talking about. Do you think it's normal for a grown adult not to be able to challenge the thought process of their parents? We're not talking about disrespecting your parents, but you can't even, because you've been told that you must not. It's the same thing. Like in Nigeria, for example, it's very common. Even in the office environment, yeah, if you're a junior staff, just sitting with your managers and like you have an opinion or a perception about the ongoing project and you dare to challenge them, they will absolutely come after you like a wolf. They will rip you to shreds. How dare you? The same thing in churches, mosques, and all these places. And this is how they destroy the thought process, let me say, of the black child.
No, I agree. It's a culture. Like I said before, if it's not a culture, how can we all have the same story across the whole continent? If it wasn't the culture, only Nigeria would have this story, or Ghana, or wherever, and we wouldn't have the same story. But how can 50 countries, 2 billion plus people have the same story? And I'm not saying all 2 billion, but it's prevalent, you know? It's your channel is full of other Africans who are saying it happened to me too, and I'm from Uganda, I'm from Ethiopia, I'm from South Africa. That shows it's a culture because it's happening over and over again across the whole continent. How many of us grew up being beaten? How many of us grew up being beaten in school? How many of us grew up being told to shut up? How many of us knew not to question authority? How many of us used to be in church for 3+ hours listening to some pastor talk about nonsense, but you couldn't speak up because you knew what would happen to you? We all have the same experience, even though we belong to different cultures. That must make it a very African thing. It's not a coincidence. But I guess the last thing I would say is gaslighting. You know, that last poster tried to gaslight us and tell us what we believe to be true is a lie, and that what we see isn't exactly what we see. And that's a big part of why we allow parents to abuse us, because they basically tell us to our face, what you think happened, that you abused me, that you financially violated me, didn't really happen, and that's why you should let it go. It's the same thing he said, right? It's not the culture. What you think isn't true. Pick something else to point out. But I know my truth, and I know it's a fact. How can you tell me what I know to be a fact isn't a fact just because it makes you uncomfortable? It's the gaslighting. And, you know, that last poster just demonstrated it. This man said $20,000 was stolen from him. Your channel is full of people saying how they've been robbed by their parents. But he says it's not the culture.
You know what's funny? I could, sorry to interrupt you. I could come up with these similar content on a daily basis. Like, over and over. Like, it breaks my heart, man. It breaks my heart. This one, this particular one that came in is like really fresh. 20 grand. Bro, I would lose my freaking mind, man. And then somebody will say to me, go back for long. Leave it. Let go and let God. You got to be barking mad. Anyways, thank you. I appreciate your contribution, man. Let me bring on the next person. Thank you. David.
Hello. Can you hear me well?
Loud and clear, man.
Perfect. I want to thank you for having me on. I just read your question again, and I think in answer to why we're scared to challenge our parents' criminal actions, I think there's a few things I want to address. The first is that African society is it's a highly collectivist society, and it's very hierarchical. Not only that, but it's also very high context. And when I say high context, I mean in the spectrum of cultures, low context cultures require a lot of information to be exchanged in order for people to be on the same page. Low context cultures like Canada, the United States, United Kingdom, multicultural, where there's a lot of races, but not necessarily a lot of ethnicities. But African society, while ethnically diverse, is highly contextual. And that's why we have this Pan-African relationship where everybody's experiencing the same things. What resonated with me in particular with what you're presenting is that I kind of have a problem that I'm going through, and it makes me think conceptually about the idea of the role of the parent. And in particular, I wanted to ask you, in Nigeria, what is the role of the godparent as well? Because I have this issue where I now have a godparent who's reached out to me many years down the line, asking me to help out his son who has gone into a refugee camp. Of his own volition. His entire family is fine in the motherland, but he has decided that being a refugee is the best way to emigrate to the West. And so now I'm being sort of like emotionally blackmailed, being told all these things that I don't really want to know. And it's like I'm 29. I just graduated. I have $20,000 worth of loans. That's the irony of all of this, right? And it would mean like I would have to have $20,000 in order to be able to support this guy's transition over here in a bank. And the kind of thing that I'm being asked for is like, I make 50K a year. I can't support this. Like, I don't know how to communicate this because I just feel like there's too much.
Let's cut the chase, brother.
Yeah.
I'll tell you straight, okay? Based on what you've just shared with me, just be careful, all right? And if there is no blatant, first of all, I don't know if you've seen any credible, verifiable evidence that the so-called person is actually in a refugee camp, okay?
Right.
Second of all, I don't know how that particular person arrived at the conclusion that you will be able to fund that process for them, or that you have to adopt, the responsibility for, getting their child out. That sounds to me like a carefully crafted scam.
I know it does. And the issue is that it's carefully crafted in the sense that there's some legitimacy to it, right? They have enough understanding of the system where they know that there's like a system where if you have 5 Canadian particular like residents that have enough money and that sponsor you, it bypasses a lot of things in the system. And that's why he reached out to me in particular. And also, I know that he's a legitimate person in the sense that my parents know the family and things like that. And so there's many ways in which I understand what you're saying. Sounds like a scam, but also I'm not financially even like, how do you deal with this? Is this a normal thing?
Don't just say no. That's what that's one of the things I've been banging on about. Just decline. Because the thing is, it's a slippery slope, bro. David, the moment you get sucked in, they will fleece you to the marrow of your bones. There's no, I mean, my gut feeling is just telling me as I'm sat here, there is nobody trapped in any refugee camp anywhere. It's a carefully crafted scam. We live in the internet age that's growing rapidly. We've got smartphones on our palms now. Even me, I recently, I was in Nigeria for like 3 months plus, and bro, I tell you this, right? I bumped into like a couple of young dudes, and this guy has never stepped on an airplane in his life. He wasn't born abroad. He grew up purely in Ibadan or your state. And the dissemination of British accent was absolutely mind-blowing. He was just mimicking because he watches a lot of, British TV content, right? And on his DSTV, TV package. And he was just goofing around jokingly. So I listened to him. Bro, if you were next to me, and no one told you that this guy actually isn't from the UK, you would buy into the fact that, because he actually fooled me. He was like, what's going on, big man? This. He was talking to me like proper East End accent from the heart of London. And then he was like, I grew up in North London, blah, 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 blah. I said, all right, cool. And I said, I used to live in da-da-da-da-da. I went to uni in Manchester, and then, and I moved back. But then I decided to move back to Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. I said, all right, cool. Until somebody that sat adjacent was giggling, and I was like, no. He's never been to the UK. And I'm like, God damn. So I was like, dude. So he just said, he's, I listen to a lot of British stuff. He knows all the slangs, the way they talk on the streets and all that. And I've heard stories of some of these dudes now, they go to levels where there are actually persons set up in Nigeria. Now, somebody told me this, and I was blown out of the waters, where there are people that actually teach them on how to mimic British accent and American accent so they can use this over the phone or Skype calls, to their potential victims of scam. Trust me. So you just got to be careful, man.
Yeah, you sound like my father, oddly enough. You sound like my father.
Sometimes they travel from Nigeria to like Ghana or Cameroon to go and take these lessons, they go down on the ground to pick up. I'm like, wow. So, you got to be careful, man. Somebody telling you they got a child in this and this. Well, just because you live abroad, you have to, people are paying for, they will rob you blind, my brother.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I just want to say I spoke with my father in particular, and he told me similar stories. And I find myself, because I feel naive, and your channel made me feel like I'm now seeing the world for what it is. And just thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, bro. Thank you, David. Ole?
Ole. Yes, it's Ole.
Right.
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I actually love your content. And David took the words out of my mouth. I do think that it's a culture. It's definitely a culture, or it's definitely a cultural issue that we have, because I'm South African / Zambian, and it's pretty much the same here. And when David talked about high and low context culture, it also made me think of, like you have differences between collectivist and individualist cultures, right? Yeah. So in the West, generally people tend to be more individualistic. So it's all about the goals of the individual. But in Africa, we tend to be more collectivistic, or we tend to be collectivists. So it's all about achieving your goals as a unit, right? So if one individual is successful, it's almost seen as it's their responsibility to distribute whatever it is they've been able to accumulate, right? So that's a culture that we have, a collectivist culture. It's about everyone, not just about the individual. So if the individual has a lot, it's their responsibility to distribute what they have, right? And one of the things that I think is quite problematic is that we have, I think, because you talk about religion and religiosity a lot, and one of the things that's a huge problem is the perception that when a person accumulates wealth, they've accumulated that wealth because of some divine force, right? So you have all of this wealth, not because you've worked very hard, or not because you're very smart and you've strategized and you've done all of these things, but it's a blessing that has been bestowed on you by your ancestors, by the gods, by Jesus, whoever it is. And I think that's part of the problem, is that we don't perceive an individual's wealth to be something they accumulated by themselves with their own intelligence and their knowledge and all of that, but rather it's a blessing that was bestowed on them. And if it's a blessing, you did not earn it, right? So which means that it's almost like this divine force has blessed you. You are just a custodian of everyone else's blessings. So I don't think you know, in this case, I don't think his parent even saw it as stealing, because it can't be stealing, because whatever you have as an individual, whatever you've been blessed with by God, is you didn't work for that. And so we all have the right to what you have. And I think that's a huge part of the problem, is we have this collectivist culture, and whatever you have, you've been given. And
Sense of
since you've been given
entitlement.
what you have, you did not earn it. Yes, it is your responsibility to distribute that amongst the collective. So I think that's part of the problem. So it's definitely a part of our culture.
Thank you, Ole.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Phrankleen. I love your content.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. If anyone else wants to come on, just click on the link. So I was gonna say before I forget, right? And thank you to David. There's a lot of people on the timeline looking out for you, David. Don't fall, don't become a prey. I think you are a potential fraud victim. Okay, do be careful now. Okay, don't let anybody mentally condition you to, you know, fall into the slippery slope, because they will fleece you and run. Right. So as I was saying, like, back to these, you know, these story. I deliberately opened the channel of, you know, conversations from that angle. Why is it? Because I see this all the time, and I'm sure I'm glad a lot of you agree with me. And it breaks my heart that a lot of people, grown men, it doesn't matter how educated they are, what their bank balance is saying, they're too afraid to say no. They're too afraid to challenge the thought process of particularly their parents. And a lot of these parents, a lot of them are usually at the forefront of fleecing you, stealing your resources. I mean, they operate in connivance with sometimes your siblings. They sometimes they steal from you, right, to cater for these useless sibling, you know, that wouldn't do anything positive with their own life. They themselves, they see you as an ATM machine. They see you as a retirement plan, and they just take advantage. They just take advantage, man. So I can't get my head around why anyone would say you would hand over, you know, about $20,000 to your mom, ask her to buy a parcel of land and start, you know, with the foundation, and they blow through the money. And it's the sheer audacity, you know, like that lady said, the sense of entitlement. They think there is this, they've got prosecution immunity, you know, the repercussion immunity. What are you going to do about it? I give birth to you. I've actually heard someone's story where the person flew from the United States, went to Nigeria to challenge their father, and the father said, yes, I sold your land. What are you going to do about it? And also, let me address this. I am inclined to, I'm a practitioner, a proud practitioner of Ifa African spirituality. Donnie Poole, I'll bring you up in a moment. So there are some guiding universal principle. Hopefully, I'll be able to remove the mental chain for at least one person tonight. You see, there's a universal principle. To be about genuine lie. Let's say from your sweat, from your hard labor, you've given at some point one or two things to your parents. You've been nice to them. You've reached out to them. They've enjoyed from your labor, right? You see, the idea of, if you don't give me, I will curse you, is one of the biggest scam there is in Africa. It's a big fat lie. Don't let any father They don't have any supernatural powers. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If a good parent, if they bless you, they say prayers. Oh yeah, they get activated positively. But for someone to think they can unscrupulously use their position to emotionally blackmail or suppress you for their own selfish gain and say, oh, if I curse you, this will happen. Even let me tell you, you may not know the power that you possess. If a mother turns out to be a dragon, a two-headed dragon, an evil, vindictive, vicious person, yeah, just because they think, oh, because they're your mom, if you stand up and look into the universe and speak to that mother, yes, I said it. Especially for those of you that are Yorubas, those of you that are Nigerians, you know what I'm saying. It's the biggest scam there is. Like somebody told me, mom and dad combined, they stole 19,000 Great Britain pounds sterling in Naira equivalent, right? They stole the money. They connived with the older brother of this person, who was the firstborn, who was a bum in Nigeria, has refused to do anything tangible with his life. They lied to her that they wanted to help this person set up a farm. They connived with the older sibling, and they set up a business for the older sibling instead, leaving this person with a deep hole of nearly 20,000 pounds. And then the mother was like, oh, if you suck this breast, if I show no because a good mother, a true mother, a genuine caring mother would never fleece our child, our son, or our daughter. Believe that. So that's why I had someone, I wanted to go confront my mom, but I'm scared. That some people were like, oh, don't let her curse you. They don't have any supernatural powers. The universe will back you. Me, if my hands are like this to you as a mother, and I have been good to you, I have cared for you, I have thrown immeasurable amount of kindness, gesture of goodwill in your direction, and you fleece me. Who are you? Take you to me. I will go to the deep parts of Ifa. I will call the universe to deal with you. There is a guiding principle. Don't let anybody fool you or subject you into some nonsensical, scam, age-old scam. Oh, because she can't nibo. The beautiful thing about going to in front of Eshu la luo girioko, right? That's why they depict, that sign you see in front of court buildings, Eshu, the woman holding a scale, right? It's the deity of equity, right? It brings justice. Now, it's usually blindfolded. It's to avoid any form of bias in the process. So if I had dealings with you and you fleeced me, you took advantage of me, or could you be so on let? The man more what you should now do or give you a final point. You'll be dealt with. Believe me. I fear nobody, man. The universe will come after you. Yahoo. It's likewise. If you take my name to any deity regarding a matter, and my hands are clean in that regard, nothing is going to happen. I just had our and you do follow me. I'm letting you on me about bad mommy. Or why you can count about me. So if you curse me, it's automatic, it goes back, bang, it will hit you. There are guiding principles to this universe. Don't buy into the false narrative, man. Somebody fleece you, they rob you, go after them and get justice. Don't be afraid. Mother, father, sibling, grab them by the tits, grab them by the balls, smash them to smithereens. Except, of course, if you choose not to do anything, that's absolutely fine. Donnie!
Yes, sir. How are you?
How are you? I'm good, thanks.
Good. You know, frankly, just want to say something.
Go on.
Every time I always watch your channel, it's just because I think whatever I have in my mind, you say it out. So which means I don't even have to say it. I just need to listen and share to my brothers and sisters and say, see, look at this. This is what I'm saying. Now, the culture is a criminal, toxic culture. That culture of seniority, that is where the problem stands. I'll tell you something. So in my house, right, where I grew up, my mom said, we cannot challenge our elder sister, no matter what. We cannot challenge her. If she says something, we have to go with what she says. That is the culture. That is the toxic culture we talk about. But the good part of it is that when we grow up, some of us stay close to that culture. Some of us break out of that culture. So
that's right.
For me, I was able to break out of that culture, so I don't believe in that anymore. My thing is that, you know what? If I have something to say, I am going to say my mind. I want to give just a brief story. I want to tell you something. Now, when we talk about culture, we talk about religion, and I'm so glad, frankly, I listened to your channel very well with your stance towards this religion, because some of this religion, they're fraudulent. See, I think it was 2018. My sister messaged me, said, my pastor said I should buy a laptop for the church. I was like, buy a laptop for the church? Why should I buy a laptop for the church? She said she doesn't know that pastor said I should buy a laptop for the church. I sent her a message. I said, you know what, reply pastor on, it was Facebook. I should just tell pastor that I said I won't. She said no. She's not going to tell that I should tell pastor by myself, because she cannot tell pastor no. So I was able to message a pastor. I said, hey.
Pastor Yahoo.
Yeah. I was like, no, I cannot buy your laptop. And from that time, when I went to back to Nigeria, I actually met the pastor, pretending like nothing happened, but the belief that the pastor think he has that control, because I was part of member of the church, that I should buy that laptop, is the crazy toxic culture we're talking about. And this thing goes in our church, school, anywhere. This culture is right there. But I can't disagree with the school one, because I was actually part of the school culture when I was a senior. I used it to my advantage. But then, looking at it right now, I say, you know what? It is wrong. And if it is wrong, we have to call it wrong. So that culture is toxic. And for us to deal with that culture, frankly, it will be difficult. It will be difficult, because this is passed on from generation to generation to generation. And this is tied to something that you talked about, that course. You know what? I'm your mom. If you don't do this, you suck this breast. You will all those lies.
Wait, I had to suck them breasts because you brought me into existence. I'm a baby. Oh, I'm gonna use these titties to curse you out. Well, if you bring the titties, I'll suck on them again if I can.
But yeah. So I was actually talking to my brother about this culture, I think a few days ago. So glad I'm gonna share this video with him for him to listen to this video, because it's crazy. This needs to change. It needs to change. The culture is bad, and because of this, I don't really talk with my dad that much, because it's like, oh, you've grown with all those garbage. I don't deal with that. But frankly, good job.
Thank you, my brother, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you, man. Somebody said Holy Spirit requires an iPhone. Yeah, I've heard one before where somebody left Nigeria. So he used to attend a particular church. He was a member. He used to be in the ushering department. So he came to the UK and, you know, started his life. And the pastor was basically trying to control him from back home. Like, oh, whatever monies you earn in the UK, you must, on a monthly basis, on a fortnight basis, make sure you forward your tithe to the church in Nigeria. But because the guy freshly moved out of the church in Nigeria, had just newly arrived in the UK, he fell for the scam in the first few months, 5, 6, 7 months of being in the UK. So the brother met a new wife. I mean, a new, you know, lady who grew up, you know, she's Nigerian, but grew up in the system here. So there's cultural difference. And she wasn't exactly a religious person. So that lady kind of gave a smack to the core part of the brother's brain, like, bro, why are you taking a chunk of your money and sending it to some pastor back home? You are effectively robbing yourself of a sizable chunk of your disposable income, which you could use every month, set aside, and plan your future in this country. Anyway, the brother had a light bulb moment. Sammy, thank you for the super chat. So the brother had a light bulb moment and then called the pastor in Nigeria like, pastor, sorry, I can't send you any more money monthly and all that. I've got my life here in the UK. There's monthly bills to pay. I can't keep up with. And then the pastor said, oh, is that demonic woman that you're dating now, you are with now, that's telling you this? Both of you, the Lord showed me that both of you are going to perish. Both of you are going to die. Any children that you give birth to in the UK, they won't amount to nothing unless you listen to the instruction from above. You won't prosper. You will be deported mysteriously. So this guy could not bear what the pastor was saying over the phone, literally cursing him, you know, very nasty utterances. So he called an old friend down in Nigeria who's like a military person. So the guy put together a few military guys. They picked up the pastor. They blessed him with a truckload of beatings, you know, to straighten his skull and thought process. And since you know, pastor, only cool, on naughty with it. They the soldiers picked him up and, you know, they straightened him up. They helped him gently to the ground, picked him back up, helped him gently to the ground, you know. Since then, there's been no contact. The brother is living his life happily in the UK with his wife and all that. And let me tell you, man, think about it. A pastor has a congregation of about 1,500, 800 people or more, 2,000 members. A chunk of them travel abroad. They use the mental conditioning template. They tell you, you must. If you don't, the Lord will bring you from abroad empty-handed back to Africa. These are narcissists. These are evil, charlatan bastards. Evil. They're just using this to arrest your minds. Just imagine there's just about 50 of you from that church that travel abroad, and 50 of you on a monthly basis are sending 10% of your earnings in the West, your Forex, and you're wiring that money to the said pastor. So that's how they tend to fund their lifestyles. That's how they line their own pockets. That's it. And I know plenty of people that have basically have had their finances and lives absolutely destroyed by these charlatans. Shadrach, thank you for the super chat, man. On naughty pastor, about send me your tithes and offering. If you don't, the heavens will make sure you get deported. How can you be that evil? You know, but and in the worst case scenario, when you have these pastors talking to you like this, most of you, your parents will be the one at the forefront of affairs. Some of them would even be threatening you with curses that if you don't listen and do as you're told. So many people are not that strong mentally. You eventually you cave in, and this is how they clamp your life down and destroy you. Moonshoot. Or moon is a moonshot.
Oh yeah, Phrankleen, what's up?
I'm all right, man. Very quickly. What have you got to say, bro?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Yes, I'm gonna be on our side and be on the other person's side. Yes, I'm gonna say this first. Most of us, we're about 400 people on this chat. I can bet you 90% of our parents are wicked people. Deep down, we all know. Everyone talking on this program, listening, you know your mom is a witch. That's some people, not everyone. You know your dad is a demon, but you're in so much denial that you're ready to put that by the side and allow them fleece you. So I have no sympathy for anyone that gets scammed. Absolutely no sympathy. My own parents, I send, they keep money for me in Nigeria. I've sent them thousands and thousands, and I could always call it back, pull back multiple thousands, running into deposits for mortgage and stuff. And they send it back to me, you know, just for, you know, safety and stuff. But like, I know my mom, I know my parents, I know they're never going to fleece me. But most of these people complaining, they know their parents are very nasty people, but they're still like sucking on the tits of their mom. So that's one side of the story, right? So I'm going to talk about the other side. The other side is we that have kind of got our shit together. We have to be a bit considerate for those people that haven't made it. So I know we keep saying, I have my life in the UK, I'm doing well. My cousins or my brothers back home are wasted. Why should I rescue them? It's easy to say it from our own side. We could always say that, but we have to sometimes put ourselves in the situation of the other person back home. You know, we have to be careful how we, because remember, they're going to envy you. You're going to have so much content towards you. You know, you cannot go back home and be safe. They can kill you and stuff. So I think people need to be smart. You know, you don't show off. You don't discuss your finances. You don't flex on anyone. If you're not ready to help them, better pretend that you're poor. You understand? So I'm just trying to talk on behalf of the other people on the other side that we keep complaining about. You understand? So we just have to balance the books and not say, oh, because now you know, you're doing well in the UK, you're IT consultant, you make £1,000 a day. You have to help other people, not at your own expense. You know, so there should be a balance. You know.
See, bro. I have never said. In fact, I've said it before. If you've been watching me for a minute, I believe in philanthropy, right? The argument here is not about, oh, don't help anyone or don't support people and all that stuff. No. My own gospel has been, don't shell money out at these people at your own detriment, which is the case for so many diasporans, playing God and shouldering truckload of responsibility. Bro, I know people that have been in this country. Yeah, I'm here in the UK for 10, 15, 20 years, 17 years and counting. Yeah. Some of them have immigration complications. They don't even know if their papers are going to come through, when, how. They're in the shadow of the system, doing odd jobs and stuff, and they are playing God. It's the height of foolishness. And a lot of these people, they could barely count 3 pairs of shoes in their wardrobe, right? And to make matters worse, the people you are shelling money out to, on top of all that, they will fleece you. On top of all that, they have a blatant disregard for you. So why do you keep doing it? Do you get what I'm saying? Exactly. That's where
you want to save people. You want to save everyone, and you haven't saved yourself. That's where I think it stands. But anyway, those are my 2 points, and I'm just trying to be on the 2 sides, you know, because we on the other side that have you're kind of successful. If you were on the other side of the coin, you're never going to be saying these things you're saying, right? If you didn't have your shit together, you're going to be hoping on your other brother to help you out, your cousin abroad. So we have to be really careful how we...
let me clarify that. Yeah. I appreciate where you're coming from, but in addition to that, let me just respond to that bit quickly. I get what you're saying. It's not a crime. There are cases that I've even seen personally where people that are back home, there are some people whereby, okay, they are blessed enough to say, okay, they have a sibling abroad or a father or a cousin or whatever. And whereby somebody has gone out of their way working here in the West, they're breaking their back, and they've said, okay, for this particular business proposal that you brought, you know, rather than me giving you handouts or peanuts here and there, I will set you up, you know, maybe you want to start making ice blocks or you want to farm or something like that. Yeah. I've seen people abroad have actually thrown resources at, and they've latched onto that resource and they've made the best out of it. That even the person that helped them is had to take like double or triple takes, like, whoa, within 2-3 years, this person is flourishing. The ones that we have issues with, are those that plug themselves, these self-made parasites, these leeches, that they will plug themselves into your finance and put a giant straw into your wallet and suck you dry, lie to you, use emotional blackmail to make sure you part with your hard-earned money. Some of them, in fact, the worst part is you are on the other side here, you're shelling out money, you have a totally different perception of their situation, and then ta-da, you show up, bro, they have a 3-bedroom bungalow, they're driving a Lexus 4x4, they actually have a better bank balance than you. Those are the people that I have disdain for. This is why I've got to, like, I do my best to emancipate the diasporans. Like I keep saying, don't play God. It's not about, oh, don't help, bro. Let me tell you, even if you have thousands of pounds in your bank account, don't try to save everyone. Just imagine that you find out now. It doesn't matter what your bank balance is saying. It's human nature. Imagine if I'm sat here and I say, hey, bro, listen, man, I need help. I'm struggling with my rent or something. And you're like, oh, Phrankleen, man, you know what, my brother? There's £100 towards your rent. Yeah? Imagine if you then find out tomorrow or next week that, oh, hang on. So this guy actually misled me just to take advantage of me. He didn't have any rent issues. In fact, he's got money on him. How would that make you feel? Be honest. Regardless of your bank balance.
Yeah, it's going to be bad, yeah. But that's how most people back home, that's the perception they have. You want to play God, they will allow you play God. So if you want to be God for people, then so be it.
That's true, man. Thank you, my bro, man. Thank you.
Okay, take care, man.
Thank you, man. Vanessa.
Hi, Phrankleen. Good evening. Thank you for accepting my call. I don't know if you can hear me. Please let me just.
I can hear you loud and clear. Go on.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So, first time ever joining your call, and I just normally watch a replay of your shows on YouTube. This is my first time of actually tuning in live because I always have so much to say, and I gotta tell you, you're definitely doing the work of God. And you always speak my mind. A lot of times I'm just jumping when I'm watching, like, oh, finally somebody shares this thing. But God, there's so much running through my head. I'm just trying to compose it mentally. But first off, for the African religious people, I want to take you back to your Bible. I'm African, I'm Christian, I'm definitely a Jesus baby, so I'm not Antichrist. I want to say this. In the beginning, in the Bible, when God and Abraham had their dispute over disobedience, he was kicked out of the Garden of Eden and never came back. That was it. Does that mean that God didn't love Abraham anymore? But what did he do first? He kicked him out of his space. So for the religious folks who believe your parents are mini God, I need you to keep telling yourself this. God kicked Abraham out of the garden and he was still able to love him. So it's okay to cut off these toxic people and find a way to love them from afar. If you want to use your religion as a reference, God kicked Abraham out of the Garden of Eden, and here we are today. But moving on away from that, you asked a very interesting question, because I find the reason I really wanted to join this call is because I find myself in a very similar situation with my father. When you ask, like, how do you really manage disputes with these parents of ours that have brought us up in this toxic environment? They don't know it as toxic, but that's exactly what it is. And I have to say, as an African person, once you sense this, you just have to make like a conscious effort to kick it out of your system and end the circle and make sure you don't do it to your children. And I say this because I have a wonky relationship with my dad, simply because I have your point of view, basically. So we're not getting along very well. And you can imagine an African child. I live here in Nigeria. I live in Lagos. I lived in UK a while back, but now I live here in Nigeria. So in terms of
how long you been in Nigeria for?
Been back since 2010.
Oy,
so 11
are you
years.
it?
Yeah. At least I don't want to go back, so it's okay. Awesome. In terms of culture, I have a mix of both. I have the Nigerian culture because primary school up until that secondary school before I moved to the UK, uni and all, before I then moved back. So I have a bit of both. So it means that I'm not very traditional Nigerian in my way of thinking. Right is right and wrong is wrong, and there's just no in between. And the way the African culture is built kind of just, let me put it this way. The African culture will spend time putting pressure on the victim to forgive the abuser instead of spending time addressing the abuser.
Thank you.
And this is it. So that's why we have a very silent sexual immorality culture in this country, where everybody has been abused, especially sexually, by a family member, a pastor, an imam, a lesson teacher, somebody so close, right? And the problem is nobody is talking to the abuser. The focus is on the victim. Forgive. Forgive. I hate that word. I genuinely hate the word forgive and family. I don't actually like to put it in the same sentence. It gets under my skin very quickly. In my community, I know of a 5-year-old girl who was raped by her mom's brother, whom the family did not allow anything to be done because it's family.
Yeah.
Ogbeni, if I'm not able to send you to prison, my arrange boys for your life will never be the same. You're not getting away with it.
They will close ranks. And that's one of the, thank you for bringing this up. Thank you so much. That's one of the most deadliest things that occur on a daily basis in the Black community. And these so-called self-appointed elders, they will close ranks to cover up. Go on. Forgive me for interrupting. Go on.
No, it's okay. It's the same thing that happens with parenting. For some reason, the African definition of parenting means the parent making the best. So when it comes to making a choice between the parent and the child, the parent always makes the best choice for the parent. However, parenting is actually supposed to be defined as making the best choice for the child at any given time. But the African definition means making the best choice for the parent at all given time. And this best choice might just be your mom or your dad, most likely mom, wanting to prove a point to her community. And in doing so, they rip you off the best choice for you simply because they're trying to prove a point. This hidden agenda of parents, it's mind-blowing. And so here is my thing, right? Today, as of today, I have an extremely wonky situation with my dad, and I see him trying to bully me into getting over it. And I've put my foot down. Sir, you are not going anywhere with this situation until you say sorry. You are going to address it. We are going to talk about it. We are going to literally sit down and do root cause analysis. So
African parents and saying sorry, they are enemies. It's very hard to bring them together, man.
I don't care. I've like I've seen him go round and round in circle, go to meet one uncle, go to meet one auntie, and I keep telling all of them the same thing. The amount of time you people are using to pressure me to call this man, if you use it to pressure him to call me, this will be solved. And I'm going on a journey of now, over 6 months, I've not spoken to him. And he's probably sitting there, that means she's going to want to get married, and that's why I'm going to wait for her. Benny, I sat down with my siblings and I said, I have 2 brothers. Are you 2 willing to give me off to a man if the time comes? Will you sign that marriage certificate? They said yes. I said, fuck your father. That's the only thing I could ever need him for. And I'm done. But we need to make a conscious effort as African children to break the circle. And I'm the first of 4 siblings, and I've done that for my siblings. And I see him, and when something happens, dad is going to call, he's going to say, as Egbon, you're supposed to call your siblings together. And then I told him, I said, me and my siblings, we're equals. Whatever conversation you have with any of them, whatever decision they make and they tell you, don't come to me to go and pressure them to do what you want. If you are not able as a parent to convince your child to do what you want, then I am not able as a sibling to convince my siblings to do what you want. If you have failed to reach their heart, so have I. And he go, when I go now, is this how you are going to lead your siblings? I'm not leading nobody. They're all individuals, and they are making decisions on their own, and we are supporting each other. So I said to him, if you speak to any of us, and any of us says anything to you, kindly accept it as the voice of the 4 of us. You will live long, Daddy, if you start thinking about us like this. But don't think, you are the first, you will lead them. No. I'm not leading anybody. And as children, we need to be okay with not having a relationship with our alleged family, because I'm still investigating the meaning of family. Because so far, all I can come up with as the meaning of family is Onisole Nuniwo. That's it. I cannot find a better word to define family. Like, the stories I have are like, is African magic content. But I just made the conscious decision. If you're toxic, you are not even allowed close enough to me to even hurt me. Like, even amongst family, as you're approaching me, my father will be warning you. He's telling you, like, no, just leave her. She will not take it easy on you. And I think everybody needs to have a stand. Frankly, my cousin, a direct cousin, was getting married. The hall was opposite my house. It's just opposite my house. The church is opposite my house. I will walk for less than a minute to get to the church. I didn't go to the wedding. I seemed very callous when this happened.
I know that too well, man.
Even my dad, even amongst the family, man, that period, my name, but I didn't give a shit. Fast forward a few years later, my mom passed. I do not see anybody from that family. I'm not hurt. I was like, ha! I told you people, these people were no good. I've seen what they've done to my father, and God forbid they are coming to do it to me and my siblings, and I will keep them as far away as possible. And I did, and I was right, and I'm glad I did. As African children, you need to be okay with not having this perfect relationship with your parents. You need to cut that toxicity. It needs to end. I'm dealing with it
today. Can
you
please repeat that bit? You need to be okay with not having a perfect
relationship with your
you see parents. right there lies the truckload of problem that a lot of people deal with, because the mental conditioning keeps telling you that, oh, it's going to be perfect. So when your mom steals from you or your dad violates you, you see them as superhumans. You lie to yourself that, oh, I've got to give them 1,001 more chances. Let them keep doing it. No!
And there really lies my issue with my father. It's the fact that I'm not conforming to that. He believes he's a mini God. And I just remind him he's just an individual roaming the surface of the earth. That's it. You are the medium I came through. But you are not my medium. You're not my source.
Vanessa, you need to stick around on this channel a lot more, man. I love your thought process. I appreciate your energy. I love people like you because I can align with you. I'm like a male version of you. Me, I'm a fire. I'm, oh boy. So it's like I'm talking to a female version of Phrankleen now.
It is mind-blowing. And trust me, I am a 33-year-old Nigerian woman not living in her father's house. I don't know if you're beginning to understand what this means in my community and my society.
Of course.
Right? He's even gone as far as accusing me of, it's because you're successful. It's because you have money. It's because you're this. It's because you're that. And I remember when I first moved to Nigeria, my first job was 10,000 naira with my UK English and all the everything. Phrankleen, I jumped at it. Do you know why? I come to realize, just like our parents couldn't leave our mothers, our mothers couldn't leave our fathers because of financial stability, I come to realize that African children were raised to be financially dependent on their parents till the day they die.
That's right.
And that's the power they have over you. And within a month of being at home and exhausting whatever cash I had, and kind of seeing that it's like I have to keep going back to this man, and terms and conditions were kind of tied to this. I took my 10,000 naira job. I didn't give a shit. I was like, whatever it takes for me not to ask you for food money every day, I will do it. And the day I started earning 10,000 naira was the day I gained liberation from that man. That was the beginning of the end. From 10,000 naira, I went to 70,000 naira job. From 70,000 naira, I went to 200K job. From 200K, I was on 350K, and I haven't looked back.
But
the fact that I didn't need 1 naira from this man meant there was nothing he could say to me. I'm just looking at him like, okay, what's going to happen now? What are you going to do? You're not going to give me food money. I got that covered. And African children, we need to break free of this. I keep preaching this. It needs to stop. Our parents are toxic. Even they don't know it's toxic because that's all they were brought up in. So since we know today, this work generation,
it's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious
why
cycle.
are we not doing everything possible to end it? And I said something to my dad's brother. I was like, well, what's the worst that will happen? I won't talk to
Vanessa,
you.
let me just give you heads up, yeah? I want you to crack on, but my battery is going to die. It's blinking red already.
Right. Yes.
Go on, wrap up.
It's okay. But here's one thing I said to my dad's brother once. I said, do you know what's the worst that could happen? When this man is on his dying bed, he will send for me and apologize, and then we'll move on. But I will be glad that I broke that circle. And everyone needs to have that mentality. I am not saying don't take care of your parents. They are your parents. They did whatever they could to bring you up the best way they could. You all have their account numbers. I don't need to be speaking to you to be putting money in your account. If you like, don't take it out of it.
Oh,
as a parent.
That's one of the biggest jokes.
Speaking to you to have your account
you know
number.
what? I don't need your money to survive.
I will put it there.
Put that
easy.
money
Don't
there.
spend it.
Go to the ATM.
They will spend it. See, if that is the guilt that has been placed on us and African children, you have to take care of them. If that is the guilt that is eating you up, find a way to get your parents' account number, put whatever amount you want to put there every month, and live guilt-free. They will spend it, I promise you.
Oh, believe that.
Can somebody that is hungry have money in their account and not touch it? Is it possible? When your mother has party to go to and a status to show to her friends, she will use your money to buy lace. Put the money there and move on with your life. Like, we just need to be okay with not having a perfect relationship with them and move on. Your mental health is important. Because of somebody that was the medium of you coming into this world. Me, I don't give a shit.
Vanessa, man.
Right, Phrankleen, it was so nice to contribute. And
hey, man, listen,
stick
around.
More and
It'll
more.
be nice to have you on again, but unfortunately, I'd love to crack on, but my battery's
whenever you're on, I promise, I will turn on my post notification now and we will do this together, because honestly, I totally love your content. And a lot of times I'm just here jumping on my bed like, hey, somebody that thinks like me, oh, where did this guy come from? But,
thank you very much. Thank you.
And it was so nice to join in.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too, Vanessa. Bye. Right. Thank you, everyone that's contributed. So I keep postponing. I need to get that cable that I can connect to this big-ass camera and the tripod. But, I'll get that. Forgive me, man. I was enjoying Vanessa's flow, but I know someday soon there'll be another interesting topic that she'll be able to come and give us fire. Thank you to every single person that's contributed tonight. Thank you for the super chat. It's the delectable Mr. Phrankleen. I've once again managed to complete another self-imposed obligation of trying to emancipate at least one of my people. And I hope, we've picked one or two things tonight. The idea is not to get a bunch of people to hate on their families. It's to basically put yourself at the forefront of affairs. Don't help or do stuff at your own detriment. Don't cave into emotional blackmail, all of those old, nasty, conventional, toxic culture that have used to destroy a bunch of people. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you once again. It's your boy, Phrankleen. And I will definitely catch you in the very next one. Peace and love. Thank you, Rembels, for the super chat, man. Thank you. Good night.